Hello everyone and welcome to another video on Tana. This time I want to share with you the entire system that I have been building over the last few years. So the last few weeks I've been trying to compile everything I use Tana for into a single shareable template, and I want to share it with all of you for free. Now there's some caveats because templates in Tana are great, and they're especially great in order to sort of start fresh when you can sort of start a new workspace and move from there. But it's not as great for automatically integrating into your existing workspace. Now, that's still fully possible, but you have to do it manually. So if you don't want to start Tana fresh and start with my system, then I highly recommend just installing the template somewhere and seeing the video, taking the parts you like, and actually looking through the template, how I implemented it, and trying to copy it into your own system. The template does make it a lot easier because you don't need to sort of look and screenshots and type everything in. You can just drag over the stuff that you're actually interested in. Okay, let's get started. Now it's going to be a little bit organic because it's been a while and I just want to show you how all of this works. So in front of me, you have the Tana videos workspace. Now, I'm going to show you how to start fresh. So I'm going to start with creating a new workspace. In this case, I'm going to create a workspace and I'm going to call it Orbital Demo because, oh, I misspelled the thing, Orbital Demo. And that's what I create my system, but you can name it anything you want. Now, up until this part, it's quite easy because you can simply install it everywhere you want. But I'm also going to do the next part. I'm going to press Command K and I'm going to switch this as my new root workspace. This means that my original one will go into my sidebar, and this will be the actual workspace that I'll be using in order to use Tana. It will contain my inbox, it will contain my daily notes, etc. If you don't want to start fresh, don't do this, and then just import it into this workspace or into your original workspace, whatever you feel most comfortable with. I'm going to click replace my root workspace, and then you can see the other one is actually gone. And we're sort of starting like a factory clean workspace because we also get these notifications again, which I'm going to click away. Now, first off, I will get my old workspace back because it's still safely here. It's never getting removed. Because what I need is to get that URL for the template from it. And then for clarity's sake, I will actually hide it again because it will make the video look a little bit nicer. We're going into Orbital Demo. Here we have the URL for the template, and simply clicking that URL will bring you to that page, and it will ask you to add it to your home. Now, if you have multiple workspaces, there will also be a selector here that makes sure that you select the correct workspace you actually want to add it to. So in this case, it will be Orbital Demo, but since there's only one in my sidebar, it will simply be add to home. I'm going to click this away and the notification away, and you can see some installation instructions here. So if you just have the template, if you follow these, you should be okay, but if you're following along from the video, that's also perfectly fine. Now, the first step is actually to install the settings into your Tana workspace. Now, these settings make sure that they link up the day and the week tags and to set the correct journaling settings. So if you click here, you're going to see these fields. We're going to copy and paste these fields, and then we're going to go into settings of Tana, and we're going to go into journaling, but journaling is missing. And that's because this is a clean workspace. And if you click on today, what you actually see is the journaling appears. Because this is actually sort of bootstraps all of it, and the first day note gets created. And we're instantly going to remove this one again. And we're going to, underneath here, paste the things that we found. Now, for the very observer, if you go back into the settings here, you're going to see, hey, this one is missing. And that's because there's a Tana bug somehow that if you select these things, it doesn't copy this one. So we have to manually do this one. It's not truly that important. If you forget, it's also fine, but still. I'll go and explain these things in a little bit. But for now, what is important is that we bring these nodes here. And trust me, this is the most complex part of the entire install. You have to go here, bring reference node. I'm doing Command K or Control K on Windows, by the way. Bring reference node here and bring reference node here. This one you can also see, bring reference node here. I'm doing that because eventually we're going to remove the sort of template from our workspace, and we don't want these fields to be deleted alongside of the rest of the template, and we want them in our actual workspace. Okay, so this sets up the basis. Now we're going to move to the next part, and that's to install everything from the template into your local directory here. And this button actually does it for you. So if you click this, you can see everything gets installed. Daily notes, a scratchpad, which we'll go into what that is later, a search for open tasks, projects, and commands. And you can see all of these have lovely icons from the Nucleo icon set. Next up is the schema, and the schema contains all of the different super tags and associated commands that I have set up and use in my system. If you click Move to Local Schema, it will move everything there. Again, only do this if you're starting with a clean workspace, else they will all be installed in your existing workspace and you'll have to sort of like remove them one by one, which you might not want. Now, that's it for the installation process, except for one step, which I hope will eventually be removed, but for now it's still required. And that's if I click Today, you're going to see some other stuff that is missing. First of all, we're going to remove Today, and we're going to click it again, because now it will be created with the correct day tag. And we also have our original daily notes here that we're also gonna remove. So we're back in Today, and we have the basic setup. The last step that we actually have to do is we have to change this inbox query, because unfortunately Tana cannot sort of install a search query that targets the inbox in a template yet. So in order to do that, we're going to go to inbox. We're going to Command C on the header. That actually copies the inbox node into your clipboard. Go back to Today. We're going to right click on Day, configure tag, advanced options, edit this search for inbox items by clicking on the search options and open query editor and pasting it in the owned by field. Done. Okay, that is the setup all taken care of. Now we can, as a normal user, you could, and I would suggest, removing the actual template. I'm not going to remove it right now because there's some example content in here that I like for you to show how I actually use this system. Now, some of you might have read my tweets, but this will be a sort of broad, high-level overview of how I actually use it. And it's basically very simple. I have 3 loops I do very periodically and very meticulously. I do a loop every day, a loop every week, and a loop every so often. And I'll go into what I do for each of these, starting with the week loop. So if I go to a week, then you're going to see that it has some options and it has a checklist. So first I do set as current week. I click this button. What this does is there's some stuff in my day tag that actually allows you to move completed or uncompleted items into the current week. And that's not possible as of yet. So this is a little workaround. As soon as this sort of gets supported by Tana, this is no longer needed because what I want sometimes is to move stuff to the current week and that's just not supported. And then since I have to do that every week, I click it off. The next step would be to pick the tasks from my open tasks that I've been gathering throughout my days by taking notes or doing meetings or getting stuff from my inbox from the app. And I'll go through each one of those and see which I want and think I can finish this week. Now, why I wanted to keep the example data in here, because else it's going to be very bad to demo. So this allows me to have some stuff to show you. And there's a couple of things that you're going to notice right away. I have different types of to-dos. The first is the normal to-do, something I just need to do. The second one is a to-do that someone else asked me to do, but I am not ready to say yes or no to. Every start of the week, I look through all of my to-dos that have been deferred. I will choose whether I actually want to do them, not specifically this week, but maybe at all, and see if I can actually commit to them. This is one of the tricks I learned at some point, because in the moment I say yes too easily. I always think, oh yeah, I can fit it in, or I don't want to disappoint someone. And this allows me to say to that person, hey, once a week I go through these things and then I give you an answer. And if I do give you a yes, you know it's a full yes. And if I give you a no, at least it's clear and we are all together and we're all on the same page. The next up is a discussion point. And this is actually something that during meetings often I have, oh, I need to discuss this with that person or this team. And in order to keep these, I mark them as discuss. I'll show you later how these come into play at some other points. I have similar things for items I have delegated, but I still want to keep track of because, well, if I delegate or ask someone else to do it, it doesn't mean that I'm excused from the responsibility. I still need to sort of keep track of what's happening. And I noticed that if I wasn't tracking these things, I would then sort of subconsciously be worrying about them, and it would still take me sort of effort. And the last one is another to discuss. And the simple part here, and this is a very simple trick that is super, super nice. I just go through each of these, and the ones that I intend to do, I just shift tab into the week. And what happens, it actually adds the reference to the parent. So it goes from my open task to the task I intend to do this week. So let's just add a few random ones in there. Let's do this one also so we have a variety. And then generally I just click here and I close this one. Then I open my calendar and I go through all of my upcoming meetings. This one actually just opens Fantastical. So if you're on a Mac, then this will work for you. If not, you can remove this button on your own or perhaps change it to something else. You can look how I did it. This uses like an X callback link, and that works great on Mac to also open an application. It's simply just lazy me not wanting to do it. Why I do it is because sometimes I forget about an upcoming meeting and I see, oh, but I still need to prepare for it or something else is coming up. And then as I see those things, I can still make sort of last minute to-dos to make sure I am prepared. And then I have some questions that I intend to ask myself every week, and I fail more often than not. So I'm still struggling how to sort of throughout it all, in all of the operational madness that comes at me, to keep making progress towards my big goals and to reflect on the progress and the decisions of last week. These are things I more strive to do than I actually succeed to do. But I keep them here as a reminder that this is something that I do want to do. Okay, now let's go back to today. And one of the things we're noticing is that this sort of search now gets populated by all of the to-do items that actually are in my week. And generally then I would click on import, which imports the events or meetings from, in this case, we use Outlook at work, but this will work equally fine if you have meetings. Anything with a date actually works. So if you use the native Google integration of Tana, you can simply remove this button and it will still work. You can also remove this field. One of the things I do like is that I want to keep most of my meetings sort of contained to this day tag. So I can also after a year or something or a couple of years, I can archive the entire thing and I don't have a big list of meetings in different places. But I'll show you a little bit more about that later. In the calendar, all of my meetings will actually show, and let's just add one here. Let's say I have a meeting at 9 a.m. and let's see, that's a test. As you can see, it automatically tags it as a meeting, and I want all of my meetings to be in the meetings folder or field. So I tend to have this one because normally, as you can see, if you go in and out, I have this hidden and I only see the calendar here. Now I have different types of meetings and let's go into each of them. First of all, let's click about these hints. The default meeting is just a meeting with an attendee or one or more attendee. Let's say this is a meeting with Kevin. Now, one of the things I also have is that I have this move to library, because what often happens to me is that when I create something here and tag it later, it might end up in the meeting and not in the library. And this doesn't really matter that much, but since I like to archive stuff after a while, if I remove this meeting, then sometimes I also remove the people associated with it. And that's why I have these buttons, move to library, to make sure that every entity that I want in the library automatically shows this button. So I'm reminded, oh, it's in the wrong location. Click it, and it actually moved it to the library, and I don't have to worry about it. So this is no longer a reference. One of the challenges of having a lot of icons is that it's no longer clear in Tana what is the actual location here. Of course, you can see it here, but you cannot see it at a glance. So this button really helps there. Now, the first part is this is a general meeting. So you see there's also some stuff here on the side, and this is actually a search for previous meetings. These are all of the meetings with the same sort of recurring identifier, and this only works if you have event link, but it also searches for other meetings with the same type and the same people. So yeah, it's not perfect, but it sort of works. Next up is the one-on-one meeting. The one-on-one meeting, and I'll remove the meeting tag, and then you can see, hey, it changes the title to a one-on-one with Kevin because I want all of my one-on-ones to have the similar type. And there's some other stuff that pops up. Not only does it show the previous meetings, but it also shows all of the points I marked as wanting to discuss with that person. So as I'm going through meetings and I discuss things, I often say, hey, okay, I need to discuss this with that person or that person or that person. I mark it, and then the next time I have a one-on-one meeting with that person, they automatically show up here. And that's my end goal for Tana, in order to sort of really put it in. And for me, it already feels like when you write a to-do item or something, I can let it out of my brain. But the next worry is that, okay, how do I actually make sure I act on this today and that I remember it at the right time? And this really helps. So anything I might have deferred and I need to tell that person, anything I need to discuss with that person, anything I delegated to the person will actually show up here. So I'm reminded during these meetings. One of the pitfalls here is that if I don't have a meeting with this person planned in the future, then of course there's no way to remind me. And then I still have my weekly loop going through all of the open tasks to remind me, hey, this one has been there for a long time. Perhaps I should schedule a meeting with that person. One of the things I also do is like coaching meetings, and then you can see, hey, there's some personal goals here that are linked to this person, and they also automatically show up. And that allows me to not only do an operational meeting with that person, but also make sure that if they have some personal goals, that I keep these sort of on top of things, and I keep discussing them with the individuals. And lastly, there's one other type of meeting, and that's what we call a 3P meeting. See, and the only difference here, this is a coaching meeting, and it has a template. So I specifically chose not to make this a template that actually goes into the super tag, because I want this to be fully editable. And if you put it in the super tag, you cannot delete it. And that's very annoying to me. You cannot delete these headers. And often I want to maybe skip one part or something like that. And I just go through all of these things. And as we go along, I actually, during the meeting, often find personal goals. So for instance, here, say there's what gives you energy, and says drinking a lot of Red Bull. So a personal goal would be drink more Red Bull. Not the most personal goal, but yeah, there we go. And you can see by tagging it as a personal goal, it automatically shows up here because it automatically fills in the goal form. Now, how it does that, you can look up in the template itself. That goes beyond what I'm trying to explain here. But again, I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for myself in these kinds of situations. So as I am typing and gathering to-dos, I'm trying to make it as easy as possible. So there's a few other ways I actually do this. So for instance, during the initial talk, something might come up that I need to discuss again with Kevin at a later point, or whoever with a later point. So if I type discuss budget with Kevin, and then tag it as a to-do, what you're going to see is that some stuff is happening in the background. First of all, it's trying to find Kevin, and it says, hey, you mentioned discuss, so I'll make a discuss tag of this. Now, something didn't go completely right here, and this is like the issue with AI. Sometimes it works, most of the time it works, but not always. So you can easily see it happily due to the icon. So if no icon shows up, something went wrong, and I need to fix it. There's a lot of stuff here under the hood that uses AI in order to sort of automatically tag all of the people and teams that I mentioned. in to-dos and stuff like that. And there's also some stuff like, hey, if I mention specific words like discuss or delegate, it will automatically add that tag if I forget. So I don't need to constantly think about it. This helps me a lot. And most of the time, like 99% of the time, it actually guesses it right. So yeah, very happy about that. Okay, let's go back and see some of the other stuff. So we also have this little button here, and I noticed earlier that it does not fully work yet. So there's something wrong here. I'll fix that later. Basically what it does is if I enable or disable focus mode, it will show or hide these things. I can quickly go into seeing what is the actual problem. So first of all, focus mode needs to go on and off. Now that seems to be working. Then next up, I need to look into each of these and see if this is set up. Hey, and this seems to be broken. So the contextual node here doesn't go into the template. So this is also a Tana bug, and we'll get into that. One of the things I put in here is I won't only want to see this in a node filter when the focus mode is off. And that means that if I click on or off, you can see the inbox appearing or disappearing. And I did that for each and every one of these. And I'll report this as a bug because this is actually in the template code, but it's not being transferred into the actual installed template. Okay. Yes. One of the other things I often do is, okay, I drag either a to-do that I intend to do today from this week in here, or I actually drag it into the calendar because I intend to do it at a specific time. And then, of course, you can use the calendar to extend it or to make it smaller. So I have two options, either send it here and then just do it in the middle of things, or here and I will block some time from it. One of the other things you see is one of the stuff that often happens during meetings is that I gather more and more to-do items. So for instance, discuss the annual party with Peter van Solingen, and then let's talk that as a to-do. You can see that it will automatically try and tag it. This time it did work to tag it as Peter, and you can see that it also pushed it here. Now, again, I moved to library, which I'm going to do because this is just my my habit by now. And one of the things you actually see is that it should show up actually there. And again, a little bit of a problem. So why doesn't it show up here? It's tagged under week 33. That's correct. Open the query editor, grandparents, descendants with ref, and it's not delegated or discuss. Ah, yes, of course, because I don't want all of my discussion points here. So let's fix that and make this into a normal to do. So let's not meet with Peter on the annual party. And let's remove this. And let's move that into a normal to do. And this time it will not make it into a discussion, which I'll remove here. And this does mean, yeah, it will show up here. Now, sometimes some people ask me, this is very annoying because I am gathering to-dos, but it doesn't mean that I intend to do it this week. But the problem is I only go through all of my to-dos once a week at the start of the week, and I don't want to forget something that sort of popped up during the week that I still have to do this week. So I prefer to have it in here and then choose to, for instance, delay it. And in this case, I know that I'll do this next week, and then I just command key and then set to later. And what actually happens is then if you press cleanup, it will move it away. And this actually means it's still there, it's not removed, but in the next week loop, I might select it for next week or something like that. But this allows me to actively choose whether I want to do it this week or not. Let's see. This one, the focus mode, and I didn't do the rest. So here you have a lot of the basics parts already. Now, one of the other parts here is the inbox. I shared a little bit about that before when we fixed it. And you can see two buttons there. So let's add two to-do items into the inbox. So first, get cake for Arjan. Let's make that a to-do. And what is the other one? Write birthday card for Arjan. And let's make that a to-do too. And then we go into the today note and we see these things. This is of course not rocket science. You're gonna send many things to the inbox, whether it's from the Tana app or from other sources, it doesn't matter that much. But I want that to show up every time here. And I'm trying to keep inbox 0, so to clean it up. So either, and this is something I do, is like when I finish something, I want to make sure it's on the day it's finished. And if I don't finish something, I want to usually move it later to the current week. And it will always show up in the This Week tab. I specifically don't show stuff in the inbox also in this week because, well, it's already there and I need to act on it. And then I'm back to inbox 0. And that's just the way I get through all of my tasks. Now, there's a few more tidbits that I haven't mentioned. So first up is the Scratchpad. So this is just a little notification that I put in there. Basically, the idea here is that there's several notes that I just love to keep at hand, whether it's some hints, some shortcuts, I don't know, anything I often reference, I will just keep in here and it will always be collapsed and just one click away if I need it. It's very useful. It's like a little bit of a note card. If you don't want it, simply go to the configuration. And again, you can take bits and pieces of this and, well, adjust it to your liking. Finally, if we go to the schema, we can go through all of the other stuff that actually is in there. Let's do open schema. And you can see a lot of these things. So, and it's a little bit much to put all in one video, but basically I have roles, I have coworkers, people, teams, and I have projects and sub-projects, the different types of to-dos, personal goals, spotlights. We have some other stuff that I just put in, like trips and places and articles and books and journal entries, and some sort of nice things like sensitive and warning and info. Mostly sensitive is the one I use the most during meetings. Often I like to make some remarks that I want to make sure that whenever I share my notes with someone, they don't make it in. Now, unfortunately, Tana cannot do that automatically, but by having this little icon and tagging it as sensitive, at least, I accidentally created the AI mode, as tagging it as sensitive, it's clear that I do not want these things shared with anyone. And then I can go in and later on, if I see this and someone asks, hey, can I have your notes? Then I see these things and just simply like filter them from it temporarily, export it and send it to them. Now, there's probably a lot of stuff I forgot here, and there's a lot of stuff that might not sort of translate correctly into your context. It's quite hard to actually sort of contain everything in here. I did my best in order to make this workable, and I'm really excited to see what all of you make from it and what is useful, what is not. And this is just the first version. It's very difficult to keep this updated, but I'll keep it updated with all of the changes that I'm making, and hopefully it will be the start of something that also Tana moves more into the direction that you can actually share these in a more interesting way. Perhaps even share this in a live way where if I make a change to the query, then it's automatically reflected, or you can accept that change or something like that. I hope these things will eventually make it to the way that Tana works. Again, if you have any questions, you can find me on Slack or on Twitter. And thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoy the template. Bye-bye.